Where's Matt? Is Matt here? Do you want to come near the front as well, Matt? Go there. And then Aidan's going to come up in a sec. And we asked you a question, Elaine. I hope you prepped for this.
No, I wasn't prepped at all.
Hi, Matt. So, what does it mean for you to follow Jesus at this time in your life?
Right. Well, Steve told me not to overthink this. So, well, in one way, it means what it's always meant, that Jesus has always been so important to me, and it sort of organises my life, really, even though I make a bit of a mess up of it lots of times. But I think now, maybe, I think following Jesus has made me very aware of what his calling is on me, because I haven't got much time left. I know it sounds silly, but I'm 73. Anything could happen any time. And I think what following Jesus means that he's given me confidence to face whatever's in the future, but really helping me to think about the present because of this limited time. And in a sense, he continues to work on the stuff in the past that he's got to. And I've just come across this phrase in the Bible in the last few days. It's been really resounding with me, treasures in the darkness. And in the darkness of my heart, where things are, he's trying to find the treasures and doing that work. So that's part of where I'm at the moment. Is that all right?
That's brilliant, Elaine. Thank you. Aidan, do you want to go next, actually, rather than be orderly in our generational... So the question, you've got the question?
Yes. So lockdown was particularly hard for me, and I guess Jesus really helped me get through some rough spots during that. Yeah.
That's good. Anything you want to add? No. Okay. Matt.
Hi, thanks. So what does it mean to me to be following Jesus?
Matt, just a little higher.
A little higher, yeah. So I'm way out of my comfort zone, by the way, with the microphone. I really don't like it. So yeah, learning to trust God. That's been my journey for the last couple of years. I had a period of 10 months of unemployment last year, and God led me to a job that I would never have looked at if it hadn't been desperation. In that, He has brought me to a place where I'm willing to step out of my comfort zone and do things for him. So I'm now running a Christian fellowship group at work, which most of the people there are much more qualified than I am to run. But I'm learning to do that on a week-by-week basis and just trust him. So, yeah.
Thank you. Brilliant. Great. Should we just pray for them?
Yeah, let's just pray for them. Brilliant. Yeah, do that now. Yeah.
Yeah, Lord, thank you for Elaine, Aidan and Matt. Thank you for the journey you've taken them on in the last period. And we just pray a blessing on each of them, that they would know your smiling face upon them, that they would know how much they're loved by you, Lord. And thank you for all of the experiences you've taken them through and the learning and teaching you've given them in that. And we just pray for more of that for them in this coming period. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, guys. You can take your
Thank
seats.
you.
So it's over, Matt. You can relax now. Okay. You've just heard from 3 people who believed the message. Did you hear Jesus' prayer? Praying for those who would believe their message, those early disciples. Now we've heard from disciples in our own day of different ages. And the fact that they are of different age groups will shape the testimony that they bring. So I'm just picking up on Elaine's reference to having less of life left ahead of her. She put it very bluntly, but actually that gives a certain perspective and brings certain thoughts and challenges. And then there was also reference to the workplace. So for Matt, part of his working out what it means to follow Christ is to do with where he works and the people that he works with. But I had this thought that it would be fun to draw some testimonies, short testimonies, from 3 different age groups, just to represent something important, that we are a community of different age groups and generations, each of us seeking to follow Christ and perhaps work through some of the particular challenges that pertain to our age group. But that we're together in one community is important too. Do I just need to move this a tiny bit? Is that a little bit better? I think yep, that's great. That we belong to one community, following one Lord, and finding common cause is a powerful reality to the world that we're sent to. Want to just think a little bit more about the gift of generations. But I am going to pause because I sound like I'm booming. Do you want me to carry on, sound man, or do you want me to switch to one of the handheld mics? Carry on? That's cool. Okay. So, and I want to just explore for a moment how the generations have gifts to give one another within our life together. And that if we will give and receive those gifts well, then we will become light, bright light in the world that we're sent to. And I want to just visit briefly a story in the Old Testament. It's a lovely story of two women, Ruth and Naomi, who belonged to two different age groups. In fact, Ruth was Naomi's daughter-in-law. Ruth had been married to Naomi's son. And I say had been married because sadly, Ruth's husband died, as did Naomi die. And so they were both widows on a journey. Now, I have a little image that might come up on the screen for us. Right now, there it is. So there's Ruth and Naomi. As I told you, they're on a journey from Moab, which is where Ruth first came from, where she was born, to Bethlehem, where Naomi was born and grew up. They're on a journey because things are not good in Moab. There's a famine, and so they're looking for a better life. Now, part way on this journey, quite early on actually, Naomi says to Ruth, "Go back to your own people. There's nothing for you in Bethlehem where we're going. Go back to Moab. Find a husband there." Ruth says to Naomi some amazing words, and they've just come up on the screen there. Let me read them to you. "Do not urge me to leave you or turn back from following you, for where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God." Just leave those words there for a moment. Some of the most beautiful words that have ever been spoken. But behind the words, a gift. Ruth makes a gift of herself as a younger woman to an older woman, pledging her commitment, her very life, to stay with Naomi and to work things out together. The gift from one generation to another of a deep commitment. But if we roll the story on a little bit, in Bethlehem, where Ruth finds some work and possibly a husband and a new family. And it's at that part in the story where it swings round, and having received such a gift of commitment from Ruth, Naomi now gives her gift to Ruth, which is some motherly advice. Now, if you flick to the next slide, you'll see the beginning of that motherly advice. And this is because Ruth, having worked in the field of a certain Boaz, and had caught his attention, Naomi, recognizing that Boaz is related to her family, says, "Wait, my daughter, until you have learned how the matter turns out, until you learn how the matter turns out." And the story develops, so you can leave those words there for a moment, where Naomi has some more advice to give. And there's a beautiful moment where Naomi turns to Ruth and says, now this is what you've got to do. Put on your best dress, perfume, and go to where Boaz is harvesting the barley, and wait until he has eaten and I was going to say has drunk, when he's had his food and drink. I couldn't get my tense right there for a moment. And Naomi's advice continues. And we're not going to go into that right now, but basically, Naomi, as Ruth's mother-in-law, gives some practical wisdom on how things might go well for her with Boaz, and they do. And Boaz and Ruth meet beautifully, and they are married, and they become the ancestors of King David, who is the king who comes before Jesus. He's in that line that goes all the way to Jesus. Now, there's so much going on in this lovely book of Ruth, but I just wanted to highlight there something I've never seen before, is the gifts that pass from one generation to another. Do you see that? The gift that Ruth brings to Naomi and the gifts that Naomi brings to Ruth are given and received. When that happens in a community, health comes to the community. Life, the very goodness of God, grows among us. And then we become light, a gift to the community around us. Because if we stop and think about it, there's so much brokenness around us, isn't there, in the society that we're part of. And some of that brokenness is to do with generations not connecting, not valuing one another. There are many cultures around the world where older people are much more valued, much more revered than in our own culture. It was brilliant. Recently, I had a birthday meal with my dad, who's 86, just last week. And present at the table was my dad, my brother and myself and our wives, and one granddaughter, one of my dad's granddaughters. So 3 generations were there, and there was such a wholeness, such a beauty to that occasion. Respect for my dad as the head of the family, and a lot of laughter, a lot of humour, telling stories. It was a picture for me of generations well connected. And when that happens, it brings health. But as I said, we live in a time when we don't always respect one another across the generations. Older people are not always respected for the wisdom and experience they bring. But equally, younger people, children especially, are not always protected as they might be and valued within society. So you get that phenomena where children are not allowed to be children for long. Those pressures to grow up really quickly in all kinds of ways. So my point is, and on this I'm pretty much going to finish, is that when we as a community of God's people learn to value the generations among us, and for the gifts to flow from one generation to another. You might think about the kind of youthful energy and vision and verve of younger people. And then that wisdom of years of experience, of having reflected on lives lived. How those things might come together in a powerful way to make the gospel known. But it is in the unity of generations that are together following Christ that the gift is given to the world. Part of what it means for Jesus' prayer to be answered, that when we are made one in this way, then the world works out that Jesus has come. It understands that Jesus has come by our oneness and by our unity. COP26 came into view in the prayers, and there's perhaps one of the best examples of generations having the opportunity to come together for common cause, for the good of the planet we live on. And one generation has called to another in this, the younger to the older. To us who are in the older generations who have not attended as we might have done and could have done. So there is that call to repentance. But beyond that, that we might find common cause to steward the planet for the future generations. It's a big one, isn't it? And one we're investing in as a church. But an opportunity, I believe, for us not to argue amongst ourselves between generations about this, but to find common cause, to connect and move together. Lord bless you. We've just got a few more minutes. We've got a final song. And Giles, I think you're going to just take us to the end, aren't you?
So, Jay, you're going to come and... Is it Waymaker you're going to sing? Or, yeah, it's a really great song. I found it really reassuring at different times in my life when